Dream Coach. If this is the first time here, welcome, welcome. If you've been here before, welcome back. So, as you can tell from the title, we're going to talk about. Actually, before I get any further, I do have my handy dandy notebook right here, and we're just going to talk about how I went from working at a cable company to teaching. So, if this is something that interests you, we'll be right back with the information. So we're back with this. Before we get any further, let me just say that working at a cable company, there's nothing wrong with working at a cable company. Absolutely nothing. And there's no knock. There's nothing. I have nothing against the company I was working at. Actually, I met a lot of great people. I still have people that I consider my friends working at this cable company. I have great supervisors. Everything was great, but it was just not for me. So what happened is that before I left Connecticut, because I'm of course I'm Jamaican, but we left in Connecticut for more since the late '80s. And when I left Connecticut, one of the things that I was deliberate about was making sure that I had my bachelor's degree before I came south. Because I'm one of those. I'm a kind of a nerdy kind of person, so I did a lot of research, and I found out that competition is great down in the south. You have a lot of people, a lot of competition, and you want to make sure that you put yourself in the best light. So one of the first thing I did before I left Connecticut was make sure I had my bachelor's degree in business administration. So that was the first thing I did. But I came here in 2008, and there was a little mini, I don't know if you guys remember, there was a mini recession going on in 2008. And so I was in banking for 15 years and couldn't get a banking job to save my life. I mean, it was just crazy. So what I had to do was something called pivot. You have to learn to pivot. You're here, I have kids, and I can't find a job where I want to find it. So what I had to do was just pivot and start doing other things. So I did insurance, got my insurance license. I had, life insurance, Medicare supplement, all of them. I had all the insurance, and I was selling insurance for a while, but it was for like a third party, so that wasn't working. So I started working at this cable company that shall remain nameless in February, actually 2113. So I will never forget that day. I will never forget the date, 2113. So I was there from 2013 until I left in 2020, like right after, I believe I left 2021. So a lot of years, almost like 10 years, I was at this cable company. And like I said, it served the purpose that I was there for, but it wasn't for me. That's not something, I knew the first day got on the floor and a customer screamed at me that this wasn't for me. I was in the billing department, and I was like, this is not for me. But anyways, so like I said, I do have my notepad here and some of the things that I did. Now, other people may have taken a different path to teaching, but this was my path. So just take it with a grain of salt. Use some of the information that if this is something you want to do, you don't have to have a degree in in education. I didn't. I'm from the business world, like I said. So I have a business degree, so that's why I was able to teach CTE, because of I'm into the business world. But you could take whatever path you want to take, because a lot of teachers, I talk to, especially the newer teachers at the job. Most of them don't have degree in the subject that they're teaching. They're teaching math, but they just took the practice. They just took the practice and passed the practice, and that's the important thing, that you have to make sure you pass the practice at some point during the whole process. So, like I said, I came here, and when I came to start working at this cable company, I was already in grad school, like a few months in grad school. So I had it all planned out. I was going to go to grad school, I was going to, finish up, and I was just going to apply for these jobs as a teacher, and got the job, because that was always my intent, to teach. So that's what I did. I started on the job 2113, like I said before, and I finished the end of 2014. So it was a while, like the end of the year. Yeah, the end of the year. February started, and I finished like October, November of 2014 was when I got my master's degree in adult education. So that's one of the things that I ended up doing. So as I said before, like I said, I knew the job wasn't for me. I completed my master's a year and a half, probably a year and a little than a year, or like 3 months later, I finished. So one of the things, because I knew I wanted to teach, one of the things I did was research. You have to do your research. When I said do your research, I mean whatever, figure out what you like to teach. Figure out what you're good at. You have to figure out what you're good at so that you can be able to teach that well. I know I'm good in business. I mean, I was really good in business. I got a great high GPA and all of that, and I knew that I wanted to do that. So if you're good at math, and even though you didn't go to school for math, to get a degree in maths or whatever subject it is that you're good at, you want to make sure that you do study and research. You know, research what you're going to do is essential what I'm saying. So I know I want to teach business courses. I knew I was good at that. I knew I could bank on that. So I went and I did the research and figure out what do I need to do. So I kept applying. I would go. In fact, I've driven as far as Raleigh. They had a job fair in Raleigh. Not necessarily to work in Raleigh, but I know that people from Charlotte, recruiters from Charlotte would go to these job fairs. So I went online, did a research, typed in teachers job fair. I've been all over the place trying to find a job, and I wasn't getting any. Everybody would be interested, but no one. I wasn't getting any response, and I would take a day off from work, and I would go to these places. I've gotten several jobs here in Charlotte, but I'm not leaving one cable company. A lot of times you get pigeonholed into this thing. It's like an actor getting pigeonholed into the same part every time. So every time they're a robber or they're a bank robber, whatever, and they get pigeonholed into the same path in the same part. But I didn't want to do that. I did not want to work. I wasn't going to leave the cable company I was working for to go work for another cable company. No, it's the same customer. Different company, it's the same billing or the same department. I didn't want to do that. So a lot of times I get a lot of job offer, but it's similar job. And I didn't want to work as a call center anymore. I didn't want to work in a call center. I was sick of the call center. So, like I was saying, I researched what is it that I need to do. Because, like I said, I was going to these job fairs and talk to people. And everybody seems nice, but I wasn't getting the call back. And I was like, okay, what is it that I need to do to put myself up there? I already got the bachelor's degree in business. I got a master's degree. And I'm still not hearing from anybody. Not that it makes a difference, but I wasn't. When it comes to teaching, the degree doesn't matter. If you really, I realize that. It doesn't matter what degree you have to a point. As long as you have a bachelor's degree, of course. But having a master's degree doesn't necessarily help you. What helps you is experience, right? So you could have you could have a bachelor's degree and have 10 years experience working with children. You're going to be more qualified than me who have a master's degree. It doesn't matter. The master's degree did not matter. So anyways, but what I ended up doing was I started going to volunteering to the school system that you're already in the system. So when you're going to volunteer or substitute or whatever the case may be, your information is in the system where, they took your fingerprint, they do a research on you, or they a background check, as you would say, on you. So you're in the system. So I started research. I started go volunteer in my daughter's school. I would volunteer at different schools. When I have a day off, I would leave early. I would go to the school system just so I was in the system, and I started getting around kids and, just being in there. And then I found out, there's some research. I'm telling you, the research is so good. I found out about this program in Charlotte. I think it's different cities in Charlotte. It's called a citizen school. Like citizenship, so citizen school. And basically what I did was I taught the subject that I want to teach in, like when I started teaching, I became a teacher's apprentice. And what that means just means that I go into the classroom after school. It's an after school program. And I would teach the kids how to start a business. Everything. Your target market. Are you advertising? Location. I taught them everything about business, and then they actually had to put a business together. And then at the end of the program, there was a day, like a night, where you have to showcase what you've done or what you've learned while you're in this program. And it went successful. The kids were able to create socks, like a whole commercial about socks and socks business, and they had the names, and they created where they're going to be online. It was great, and everybody was so excited about the program. I'm like, hey, this is good. And I did that for like 2.5 years. So and the program ran for like 4 months, and then it would roll over into the next year, and then I did it for, so I did it for like 2 years, and yeah, like about 2 years, um, or a little bit more than that. I did it for. I'm not sure exactly, but it was at least 2 years, and I was intentional. You have to be intentional as far as whether or not you're gonna be volunteer in the school system, make it whether or not you're gonna find a program like this where you could teach these classes, so that when you get your resume together, guess what you put on top? I put these things on top. It wasn't about me having these degrees. It wasn't about any of that. I put them on top, right? And to show that I was with I was volunteering in the CMS school system from this date to this date. I was teacher's apprentice from this date to this date. Okay, and those are things that I put in place for me. And let's see what else. And the last thing I did after I did all that volunteering, one of the things that I knew that I am not a good test taker. Never was. I'm just not that person. People say, "Oh, you're smart." No, I'm not. I will study my butt off to pass the test. That's just me. So when the practice, I didn't have to take the practice more than one time, because I believe it took me two and a half. I took it for 2 months. I studied for 2 months or 2.5 months, something along those lines, because I was having surgery on my arm. I had surgery on. I don't know if you know one of the videos that I have about my HS, where I have surgery on both of my arms. So the first was 2020 October 21. I was when I had the first surgery, and I started studying, right? You have to be smart with these things. I started studying, and then I had a surgery. So I was home recuperating with the surgery, with this one. That was October. Then I went back and did the second surgery on my arm. So I was out for work for like 6 to 8 weeks, like 8 weeks almost. That was out for work for. What was I doing while I was recuperating? I was studying. What did I study? Because it's stuff that I know already. So I just go ahead and just kind of like, review everything that I already knew, and added some more stuff. Then I went to this thing called practice ETS, which is the practice. The practice is PRAXIS, which is a teacher's practice. So teachers have to take. Doesn't matter what subject they teach, they will need to take the practice for that field, for that subject. So if you teach ELA, say if you teach English as a second language, there's a practice for that. You teach maths, there's a practice for that. English, whatever subject you're teaching, social studies, there's a practice for that. My practice was a business education practice, and I think it's BUS. Mine's was I have it here somewhere. Can't find it at the moment. Oh yeah, here it is. 5101. Practice 5101. So what I did was I went onto the ETS, which is for the practice website, and I went to business education practice, and I downloaded what's going to be on the test. It's give you an idea of, like, they'll say, like, it's 130 questions on this business practice, right? So, and in that, they're gonna break it down, like, about investments or whatever it is. It's all broken down. So what I did was, I went ahead and I researched each topic that they said was on the test. I researched all of those topics. I was, because I'm telling you, when one of those people, when I sink my teeth into something to do it, I'm gonna do it to the best of my ability. And like I said, I wanted to get the practice before I start teaching. And the reason why I wanted to do it, like I said before, I hate tests. I'm in the middle of trying to teach and all this kind of stuff. In the back of my mind, I have to take a test. No. So what I did was, before I actually started teaching, whatever, I went ahead and I took the practice. Because remember, I'm trying to make myself more bankable. There's a whole lot. When you go to these job fairs, it's like 200, 300, maybe even more than that. 300 people. How am I going to make myself different? How am I going to make myself stand out? That's the point. How are you going to stand out from the next person that's going to teach the same subject that you're teaching? Especially if you're teaching a course like math or English. There's like 200 people. Most of the people are going to be teaching those subjects anyway. So you have to, how are you going to stand up? stand out different from anybody else, from your competition. I make myself bankable. I made sure that when I went in there, that I have 2 years experience as a volunteer. I had 2 years experience as a teacher's apprentice. I made sure that I passed. I did the practice test. I studied for the practice and I passed the practice. And what I did was, like I was saying, I study day in and day in and day out. And I actually bought this program. It's a Business 5101, like a mock exam, and it had like 150 questions. And I made sure that I passed. That the first time I took the test without any studying or anything or any review, and I got like an 89 or 89 out of 130. I said, no, that's not good enough. Or 150. So that wasn't good enough for me. I said, okay, I need to get a higher score, because the score, you have to pass. The passing score for this is like 154. You have to get 154 as a score. So the first time I did the test, I was like, okay, 87 was the first out of 150 questions. And no, that's not good enough. So I went back, studied again. I got like 125. And I'm like, no. Well, I'm getting closer, because I know I'm studying, or know I'm reviewing. Then I went back again and I got all 150 questions right. And I kept, and then the ones that I wasn't sure of, I got cue cards. I went to Dollar Tree and I got me like 3 stock of cue cards and write the word down and write the definition on the back. And I lived and breathed business education for 2 months. That's it. I'm watching TV, I'm looking at it. I'm eating, I'm looking at it. I went over these cards like I was on it, because number one, it's $130 for that exam. I wasn't going to fail. I didn't want to fail. I didn't want to take it again. I didn't want to pay, because every time you fail, you got to pay under 130. And I'm like, And there's no reason for failing. There was no reason for me to fail this, because I already did this as a degree. And number two, I had no intention of failing this, but I wanted to make sure I did it before. So what I did was I went in, studied, passed the exam, and then I start. The minute I did all of that and put that on my resume and all this kind of stuff, and start applying, all of a sudden, I had like 4 interviews in one day. And I have to be picking and choosing who am I going to go with. I remember picking and choosing who I'm going to go with. Okay, and I got a call. I was on the phone. I remember being on the phone with the woman, and it was 2 of the vice principals, and she was interviewing me. And the next thing I know, she asked me a question. I was in the middle of answering the question, where she was like, "We want you. When can you come down to the school?" Blah, because I did it on the phone. I was on Zoom. It was right after. It was in 2021, and the end of 2021, and we were on Zoom. And she was like, "I need, can you start? We're going to start in January." Meanwhile, I just had surgery December 10th. And I started like January 15th or something like that. I didn't start at the beginning of the right after. The school usually starts like the 3rd of January. I started at the 15th of January. And they were sending us a training program. And that's how I went from cable to this. Now, like I said before, everybody's on a different path. Everybody's path is different. Everybody do different things together. There's hundreds of ways for you to get to where you got to get to. But this was my path. This was what I did, because I, like I said before, I wanted to make myself more bankable, more marketable. I wanted to make sure that when they look at my resume, they see that not only did I have the education, I also had experience. So that's one of the things when it comes to teaching. Like I was saying before, you could have you could have a PhD, but if you never work with a kid in your life, you're not going to get that job, because you won't be effective. They don't feel like you need to have experience. So for anybody out there that's trying to get into the field that I'm in, or trying to get in the teaching field, or whatever the case may be, make sure that you get into that school and that you drive a bus. I seen a couple of people when I went to the program. She was driving the school bus. She had a degree in biology, but she couldn't get into teaching. But what she did was, because she couldn't get a job, she went and drove the school bus. She drove the school bus for a whole year. And then at the end of the year, they called her, "Hey, we have a position available. Do you want to, and then that's how she got her job. So she was smart enough to drive the bus 40 years. She said it was hell because these kids on this bus sometimes are crazy. But she did it for a purpose. See? That's how you get, you want to get yourself in the system. You want to get yourself somehow in the CMS. If it, whatever school district you are, whatever you can do to get in the system. So that, because if you're already there, it's easier for them to take you if you're already in the system that somebody who is not. It's bottom line. That's just the way it is. So, you know, I'm hopeful. Hopefully, something I've said will kind of like help someone, encourage someone. If you have any questions about any of what I've talked about, that you could put it down in the description bar. And like I didn't say this before, but I'm gonna say it again: like, comment, share, you know, subscribe, and tell me some ideas you wanted me to do. I would love to hear from you. I love for you to subscribe and like my videos and tell me what you want to hear me do. Like I was telling you before, I am gonna go ahead. We're gonna do some you know, some cooking videos, and I'm going back to school. I'm actually going back to school this week, upcoming week. Oh. Anyways, we're going to be up, so I'm going to bring it to my classroom. We're going to go ahead and get it all situated and decorated, whatever. I'm bringing it there, and, you know, whatever else we could do, we're going to do it. We're planning on doing a seafood boil, Jamaican style. We're going to go ahead and get ingredients together, and then we're going to do that as well. And so, I hope you have a good day. Thanks for... Hey, so just a quick ad regarding my products that I'm now selling. If you go to my Poshmark page, it's actually there. So these products, like I was telling you guys before, came directly from Jamaica. They're organic. There's no extra ingredients in any of these products. This is the black castor oil. This is the black castor oil, and this is the leave-in conditioner, and this is like a hair fertilizer. I can't pronounce that word up top. See? But anyways, so if you guys go to my Poshmark page, it's also going to be on Facebook Marketplace as well at some point. So if you want to go there and check them out and see how they work, they're available for you right now.